Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today on the 6th of July, 2022. Today, I would like to thank the guest, Richard Hill. He's joining us from Brexpats in Spain, and Pedro. Hello, Richard, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Good afternoon, Ignacio.
Well, thank you, Richard, for joining us today in our webinar about T.I.Es and updates on the court resolution. Thank you. Pedro, can you hear us properly?
Hello, Ignacio. Good afternoon. I can hear you perfectly. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, from the Javier office. We're missing Michael Davies today. He couldn't make it, but today we are delighted and very happy to explain to you and to introduce to you today as the first person that you will know we have created a voice assistant for clients for free about Spanish law information about you living in Spain and the law. And it will be through Alexa. You will ask for open Alexa, open Pellicer Heredia, and then you could start making questions that is being already recorded by us for you to use it. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Juan Fran to show us what is that, and as a quite unique, a special thing that we would like to share with you today. Over to you, Juan Fran. How to buy a house in Spain as a foreigner.
To buy a property in Spain in accordance with the legislation, the first step is to check the legal situation.
What taxes do foreigners pay in Spain?
In total, there are 5 Spanish taxes that every foreigner is obliged to pay. 1.
How are inheritances regulated in Spain?
Inheritance tax is a progressive tax.
Where to apply for the Golden Visa?
The first thing you should do is go to the Spanish consulate in the country where you live. There you can request all the necessary documentation to obtain it.
Okay, thank you very much, Juan Fran. Thank you for joining us. And Pedro, we're very, very happy because today is being on the press, international press, and lucky that we're being the first law office introducing that system to inform our clients, isn't it? Over to you, Pedro.
Yeah. Hello, Ignacio. You can listen to me. I think I
Yes.
have a bad connection right now. Okay, well, I mean, we are very proud of what is being created. Obviously, this is going to give us a better communications as a key point to improve communication, to inform clients in order to help them with any issue that they have in Spain. Obviously, with Alexa is going to open, and at this time we have created. Obviously, in the near future, we'll be implement more information and give more information accordingly, and this will be a dynamic database that will, in order to inform clients properly about any issue or any question. At this time, I think there are a little bit more than 300 questions in order to be answered. Inheritance, real estate and property, immigration, taxes, and obviously you're going to give like a basic pillars in order to understand a little bit about the system, about the questions that a client may have. So which is fantastic. It's going to be easy and fast.
That's very good, Pedro. I know it took us a long time to release that. We've been working hard from probably December to just update that. And we have a big blog as well about a lot of information about living in Spain, which we will be updating to Alexa as well. So whenever wants to make a question to Alexa about the subject that we did create in the blog for you to know, then she could explain to you verbally, which I think is a fantastic tool. It's free.
And also we have it it's going to be obviously in English, but also obviously in Spanish, but also in French. There's going to be in this time
that's good.
in these 3 languages. Which we understand are the main languages that are covered. Obviously English for foreigners is the main one, but obviously for in Spanish and also in French. We may extend it to a different language, but this time we have all prepared for these 3 languages.
Good. I think even Richard did try just some time ago. Is that right, Richard?
I did, and I was very impressed. But I was also impressed while you were doing the demonstration, because I've got it in front of me and she was answering the things you were asking.
You're right.
Thank you for talking.
That's good.
tonight.
Well, it's good. We are progressing, you know, the digital situation, the webinars, the videos, they're all great. I mean, we are having these opportunities as well to share it with a lot of people around the world. And we thought that would be another very important and useful tool, Richard, for people, at least to ask any time of the day about the information we provide, Alexa. Okay. Now, now, today we're going to talk about the T.I.E. If you recall, this webinar is going to be for non-resident and residents, Europeans and non-Europeans. The whole thing for British started because of the Brexit. And if you might recall, Richard and Pedro, we've been updating the expat community about what to do before the deadline, if you recall, Richard. Now, that was the end of 2020 for those British who were Europeans residents, but didn't apply for the T.I.E. or what we used to call the green card and residencia. Some of them had the green card and residencia, and then they swap it into the T.I.E. Well, there is a lot of people, there was a lot of people, I don't know, Richard, if there are a lot of people yet, that they put the paperwork after the end of 2020, right? This situation did radically change from the 1st of January 2021 because things got a bit more difficult. And let me explain you here. I'm going to tell you today, because I really think it's very important for you to know from the day we started with the T.I.E. issues, because for the Americans, the T.I.E., they will be getting that with a non-lucrative visa, with a golden visa, the work visa, as now any Brit that will start the application after the end of 2020. And for those who were non-resident at the time, because some of them, they were resident and they could still apply for it. Let me tell you now a little bit about how it did work, okay? So originally, you will start making, right, for the T.I.E., for those who had the green card, it was easy. It was a padron. It was padron and pay the local tax and get a T.I.E. Now, let me just, I don't know if you all guys listening. Yeah, is okay? Pedro?
Yeah, I can listen to you. Not very well. I don't have today a really good connection, but I can listen to you now. Yeah. Okay.
If you just turn off the microphone, if you're having some noise there because it's interfering, and then I will pass it over to you so we can listen properly. Now, I'm trying to explain here the T.I.E. application. So you have the people who did have the green card and they swap it. Some of them still didn't swap it. And it's quite straightforward procedure. I need your padron to pay the local tax, your photo, your passport, and we'll get you an appointment and you will get it on the same day, the T.I.E. for British who were living and resident before the end of the transition period. Then we have for those who didn't apply for the T.I.E. at the time before the end of 2020, and they started afterwards. What do you need? Obviously, you need to prove of funds, financial means, more than 9,000 euros in the bank, here in Spain or abroad. You need to have the medical insurance, health insurance, right? Which are, and then the padron proving that you were resident. Now, this situation, I don't know if Richard recall, we advised and said that we were going to have a lot of court cases because a lot of people try to legalize their situation, and unfortunately the extranjería office did not allow it. Right, let me explain you a little bit how the court case, for those who are in that process, you need to understand the outcome. And I'm very happy to do a release here that it did go very well. Unfortunately, it took a long time because we already had the first cases sorted and our clients already got their T.I.E. Let me tell you how it works so you can have an idea for those who have this kind of problem. First, you will provide your padron or proof of living in Spain. Then financial means. Let's put it this way. 3, the very controversial issue, medical, health, insurance. Now I'll explain to you what kind of problems you can find through the strong area. And then obviously the application, photo, etc. Appointment. But let's stick with the problems that took us to represent you through the courts. And I need you to understand these and encourage you, if you're in this situation, to contest it and fight it through the courts. First issue we had, Padron. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we didn't have enough time for some of them to register in the town hall. Okay? One of the state lawyer through the courts are saying, and a strong area is saying, I'm sorry, you did not have the Padron on time before the withdrawal agreement. Therefore, I reject you from the application. First problem. Second situation, financial means. Well, these, as long as you have the money in place, either in Spain or in the UK, that's no problem. And it's much more flexible, 9,000 euros within 3 months, or if you have a contract, a labor contract, okay? So that really makes things easier for those who are British, who did apply at the moment as non-European with a non-lucrative visa, golden visa, work visa. And this situation at the moment is exactly the same as a non-European, Americans, Canadian, Chinese, Russian, etc., etc. Okay. Now, second problem we fought through the courts was the health insurance. So let me tell you what the judge said recently. The Padron, even though you have a Padron out of date, or you got it in 2022, 2021, it does not matter, because you need to prove through evidence everything. So how about if you have a rental contract? How about you have 2 witnesses saying that you were living in Spain? How about if you had the children in school and you didn't have a Padron? Well, this is a real case we did have recently, and they got their residencia. Now, health insurance. The law doesn't say that you have to have a date on the health insurance before Brexit. The lawyer of a state still contests it and appeals and still insists, which is wrong, and I disagree, through the courts. Okay, we managed to get away with this problem. So if the health insurance, you got it afterwards, as long as you prove you were resident before the withdrawal agreement, before the end of December 2020, then don't panic, because I know, unfortunately, you'll have to take it through the courts unless they change their attitude, because now we did enforce these resolutions. So clients, we managed to prove they lived without Padron, they didn't have health insurance before, and still the judge said, yes, you prove you're a resident, therefore strong area should review your application. As you know, administration is quite late on paperwork, and we had to enforce the sentence, enforcing through the court saying, Your Honor, they had 2 months to comply with the sentence, but they didn't do it. So we did enforce it. And then strong area office obviously rang us to say, yes, we're going to put this in process. Please provide me this, please provide me the other. What they did ask me is to have the health insurance, because they took it for valid that you were living. So the most important thing is for you to prove you were living in Spain and you have evidence. As long as you've got that, I'm happy to take it all the way through. Now, where are we? Normally, you will make an application. They will say probably no. You will appeal. They might say again no. Sometimes they change their mind, okay? And after that, you need to take it through the courts. I don't think it's working this Paco very much. I'll try with blue. And here is what we do for you to understand. We start the claim. And at the same time, we ask for a preliminary measure. So it's a temporary measure that we ask the court to get your T.I.E. on a temporary basis until there is a sentence. So the good thing of going through this process, even though they say no, you could still stay here applying, and the sooner you apply for a temporary T.I.E., as long as you could prove that you have all these evidence I told you, I'm very positive that you'll be able to get it because they've been very reasonable. Now, unfortunately, all this, we could give him an average of 1 year, and then you'll have the sentence. Once you have the sentence, right, this is still valid. And then they could appeal it, which is not very likely, but they are doing in some occasions. And later on, you need to enforce it. And then you will get the final T.I.E. Okay? Well, I wanted to share with you that nowadays, we did try to represent clients from the end of December 2020. And now we have managed already to finalize the original court cases. So I encourage people, if they think they have good enough evidence on the T.I.E. under the withdrawal agreement, because you're able to work, because you will be treated as a European, and obviously you could do family reunification for people who didn't get it. For example, husband did try, wife did not try, and the wife later on could apply for the family reunification, which I think is something Richard wants to comment. Okay, now, important thing for you to bear in mind, this is possible, right? And I'm very happy we just did go all the way through. And the doctrine, now there is doctrine, because before we didn't have doctrine, and is in the citizens' favor, as long as we are able to prove in law all the evidence. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Pedro, because he's going to explain to you a project that is coming about immigration as well, not only the normal visa. And then we will just pass it on to Richard. I'm sure Richard from Brexpats in Spain, he's been helping many expats. He might have questions about the T.I.E. Now, we call T.I.E. now, for you to know, for those who were British under the withdrawal agreement, and the T.I.E. after Brexit as well, because T.I.E., Tarjeta de Identificación de Extranjeros, which it will be like the ID card we have, even for non-lucrative visa, golden visa, work visa, etc., etc. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Pedro, and then we'll join then with Richard. Over to you, Pedro.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. I was just reading some questions. I'm just reading them, and we will try to answer them. Well, I wanted just to make a little bit of some tips about these new projects that we are having in immigration law. Well, immigration law in Spain is started, in this case, is the latest law. It was in 2000. So it is a very obsolete, it is a very outdated law, and it has had many amendments and many developments on that, and that one has made some other amendments, and then it has been so many instructions on law. So it's been very complex situation where there are so many rules that are mixed, and in so many ways all the requirements are not really updated into the for example labor market that we're having in Spain. So it is right now again it's going to be approved some other rules in order to adapt the situation of immigration law into this real system that we have in Spain. There are kind of three pillars. One of them is going to be implemented on employment, because at this time, if someone in Spain wants to employ someone outside of Spain, it's very difficult. I would say it's almost difficult. You have to go to an employment office and require and get a certification that anyone in Spain has the same skills or situation in order to be able to work on that specific position that you are requiring. And that normally is not given. Normally it's not possible to be done that way. So what is going to be done is going to be open on that situation. The requirements are going to be more flexible. I'm not going to enter specifically on that, but it's going to be able to, in order to open the market for the Spanish companies, in order to be able to attract immigration with a contract into the Spanish system without having to go to the unemployment office and has these difficulties on the system. Because right now there are some sectors, for example, restaurants, hotels, and transport, that are having a lot of difficulties right now in order to act on that. The other issue that is going to be also implemented is about studies visa, in order to, well, in many ways right now it's approved that can be able to work in some way while you have a studying visa. But also after that, and also in order to work in Spain, once you have made all the training, once you have made all these studies in Spain, in order to work, it's going to be like more flexible also in order to put people that is studying in Spain, put people that is training in Spain, in order to bring them into the employment market, in order to be able to work in Spain and not having the situation or difficulties that us having right now in order to in Spain. And one of the, I would say, also most important situations, as you know, Ignacio, there is a really important position that we have in Spain, that a lot of people is self-employment in Spain. We call it in Spanish autónomo. And what happens if someone from outside wants to start a business in Spain? It is not something very new, not digital, not innovation, but something very like common. What happens when someone wants to start in Spain as autónomo? At this time, it was also a little bit difficult in order to start a business here in Spain as an autónomo, except for those situations that if you are high qualification or you have an innovation project or digital project, as it says. So right now it's going to be also a little bit more, I would say, mainly flexible in order to be able to start a business with faster, easier, and less requirements as it is right now. So that is going to improve in order to attract self-employment into Spain. Also should be conducted the same situation, the same residency requirements, bureaucracy, in order to documents, and or even law limitations, in order to be able to conduct the situation into self-employment and also as an employee of a company in Spain. It looks like it's mainly approved. I assume that we'll have some changes in the near future, but it's being adapted into the employment system that we have in Spain and the difficulties that we have because of the crisis that we have in 2007 and some obviously rules that was approved on those days, that in order to protect the employment in Spain and then employees in Spain that we had. So that is going to be increase the positions in order to be able to attract and not to be used in many ways. This arraigo, as we know, arraigo social or arraigo laboral, that is being common use with. It is really some exceptions. This is just an extraordinary situation, and right now it's being used more and more in many immigration offices, and it shouldn't be this way. It should be in a rule that when someone wants to attract an employee and it's not in Spain, it's outside, just to be able to move it quick, fast, and easy into the Spanish employment system. Obviously, we have, apart from that, we have some other rules, as entrepreneur law regarding that is very, I would say, is very clear, even though it has some things that still needs to be developed as the investment visas. We know this come on. We have explained this a lot about the golden visa. The golden visa has been explained. If there are some questions, I will be glad to answer. And also, well, the non-lucrative visa, which is not in this law, but it's also I would say it's a clear situation in order to be able to retire in Spain without working. And apart from that, also the high qualifications and an entrepreneur. If you have a business like this, it's really good if you're going to implement like a digital or like a film studies or making something that is attractive and is important for the Spanish industry, that will be accepted. But this is what Ignacio has been planned. Also, we had to focus also that at the end of the year, we expect that maybe at the beginning of next year, it will be approved. The nomad visa. The nomad visa, we Let me give you a brief explanation. It's going to be a visa which is going to allow consultants, professionals from all around the world to come to Spain and live in Spain. We have some attractions in order to get better position on taxes. In Spain, if you live more than 183 days in Spain, you are tax resident in Spain. At the end, you will have to declare your worldwide income in Spain accordingly. With the double taxation treaties, and you will be declaring in Spain and maybe deduct any payment you have done in your home country. But this nomad visa will allow to come to Spain faster, to work in Spain as a self-employment, as a consultant, or as an employee that you are working with a company outside, and you have better conditions on taxes. That is obviously in the internet has some figures about the percentages and these things, but we still need this to be approved, and I don't want to be focused on that right now. And Ignacio, more or less, I mean, these are a little bit the tips that the new law is going to happen, also the nomad visa, and we have also the focus on the investment visa and entrepreneur visa, and also, as we have mainly explained in many webinars, also the non-lucrative visa.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Pedro. Before I jump into Richard, and Richard giving us a little bit of feedback about the real problems people are having at the moment, I think I had here a question. I think it's from Philip, which he said he was rejected. So let me just explain again, just for 1 minute, for those who did not listen first. Okay, if by any reason you are under the withdrawal agreement, you were resident in Spain before 2021. Okay, so let's say you've been living in Spain in 2020. Okay, and for COVID and for some reasons you did not be able to get the following. You don't have the padron, you didn't have the health insurance at the time, as Philip is saying. He was rejected, but he did not appeal. The question is, can he try that again? The answer is yes. Please go ahead and do it. Try as much as you can, okay? And if you're prepared to take it all the way through, then don't forget, application, they say no, appeal, they will say no, and we'll start all over through the courts. And I think, to be honest, as long as you have the evidence, the court will support, okay? So I know there's been a lot of stress on this, and there was no doctrine, as Richard might understand and know, but now we are able to confirm because we've got sentences. So Philip, the answer, if you didn't have the health, you were rejected, you didn't have the patron, try to do it again. If you guys had this problem, obviously, if you just bump into too many problems, I recommend you to use an immigration lawyer to make sure we prepare the case properly, ready for court, because otherwise you need to start that over again. Okay, now I'm going to pass over to Richard, and he will tell us a little bit about most common questions he had. And obviously, if he has some questions, I'm happy now to answer to them through Pedro and myself. Over to you, Richard.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. The first question I'd like to ask you is, in English law, in the law in the UK, we have a thing called stated case. And that's where a judge has made a judgment, and that has now become a stated case, the law of the land. Is that the situation that you're talking about in Spain? Do they have the same?
Correct. Thing? Correct. Basically, the problem we had, Richard, before when you and us were doing these webinars before Brexit, is that we didn't have doctrine. We couldn't, even if I just start searching what the court states, there was nothing I could, because it was fresh and new. It was a new regulation. The withdrawal agreement is new. Everything is new. So you're fully correct. That's exactly the case. So now every time I go to court, I mention my previous sentence, which really puts me in a high position because there is a precedent. So I guess this is what you're saying, isn't it?
It is, exactly. Now, if that is the case, does that mean that extranjeros will be more flexible in their approach? knowing that there is a stated case for a precedent.
Correct. I mean, you know what I'm doing? I am even trying to attach on my T.I.E application copy of sentences. So the way I'm preparing the cases now, Richard, is from here, which you'll be familiar with, this situation. Okay, we are really preparing like a further court case, attaching even sentences and precedents. So it's not a formal, I mean, the complex cases should be put right properly with doctrine, which is what I'm telling you now with this. So that's basically the way forward. So we are telling the immigration office to look into it and attaching a copy of a sentence for them to look into it. They might, Richard, say no, but it's hard to believe, you know, and that's why I get sometimes so upset at the courtroom with the lawyer of the state in front of the judge saying you're making waste time and money to everyone here on this, you know. But yes, the answer, Richard, is I think they will look into it more careful because they know what is coming.
Yeah, and they know that they could lose. Okay, that's brilliant. Right, now you asked about the questions we're getting. Pedro's just done a very good presentation on the types of visa. One of the ones that I get asked about a lot is autonomo. People who want to come over here and start their own business. I don't know if Pedro would like to comment on that.
Hi, Richard. Yes, I mean, obviously, that's autonomo is a position, as I said, is extremely important in Spain. But at this time, and we deal with many like business plans for clients in order to start and come into Spain to create a company and be self-employment. Or, I mean, we deal with that, and at this time the requirements are a little bit more, let's say, limited, more requirements. So, and this is going to be approved in order to be a little bit more common, in order to anyone from outside Spain will be able to, also with some limitations, but this needs to be approved in more way. But as we are watching right now, the new thing that is being approved, that we have to have some approvals in the parliament in Spain. This is going to happen, and it looks like it's going to have like a less bureaucracy, less limitations. The requirements are going to be soft. So it's going to be better times in the near month, in the following months, in order to come to Spain as autonomo.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, the other issue that we get all the time at the moment is on family reunification. And this is a recurring issue. People don't understand the process.
Richard, are you talking about the ones with the T.I.E already, the ones that I mentioned here on the board, or you talking about non-lucrative visa cases and golden visa?
Right, it's both. It's people who came in prior to the Brexit, exchanged their green residencia for a T.I.E. That's not so much of a problem. People still don't understand who they can bring in. We get contacted often, can I bring in my uncle, my aunt, my cousin? And we tell them no. It is direct ascendant or descendant, or your spouse. And we have to explain this. It is more about people who came in post-Brexit under an NLV and have assumed that once they've got their T.I.E, which is another issue that I'll come on to in a minute, once they've got their T.I.E, they can immediately bring in a family member. And we try and explain to them that they can't. They have to be here for a year. And I think it would be helpful if you reiterated that to people. The other issue that we get a lot is people who, I don't know how this happens. I've got to tell you, I do not understand how this happens. They go through the process of getting an NLV. They come to Spain. And we have got people who have had an NLV for 9, 10 months and ask us, when do they renew their NLV? They never went the next stage and got the TIE. They never did it. Because
Incredible.
they say nobody told them they had to do it. And I
So
would say...
they're saying that the consulate does not inform that? Is that basically what they say, Richard?
Basically it. It may be that they don't understand what they're being told. I think that's most likely. Because I find it hard to believe that they are not told that they've got to come to Spain and exchange the NLV for a TIE. But you would be surprised at the number of people who are in the position they haven't done it. Now, the question is, if they haven't done it, in other words, within 30 days, they haven't exchanged the NLV for a TIE, where do they stand legally?
As far as I know, unless Pedro corrects me, I mean, they're out of date. They're out of date. They have only 3 months to get the non-lucrative visa. Otherwise, that authorization is no longer valid.
Well, that's what we've been saying. But there are other groups on the internet who say it's not a problem, you just go in and do it. But as far as I know, it isn't. And that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, actually, it is a problem because they did not perform, Richard, the resolution. The resolutions authorize you for that within the period of time of 3 months. If you don't comply with that requirement, the whole application is no longer valid. So you're in Spain irregular, to be honest.
Irregular.
Okay. Yes. Irregular. Now, some people might think, well, it's not a problem. Well, it's not a problem until it happens, because if the police is going to stop you and you're irregular, they could take you out. I mean, they're allowed to do it. You know, there is a special body who does that. And the problem, Richard, is that anybody could denounce any illegal or irregular person in Spain, and they will deport. I mean, they will start the ball rolling. The special body will do it. I mean, normally it's not very popular, you say, and I haven't heard, and probably you haven't heard that happening because of the Brexit and things, but legally that could happen. And it did happen with many nationals of different countries, which is basically what happens. Somebody denounce this person who's irregular, you tell the body of a special body, and they just send the police and they take you out of the country. That's how it works. So people need to be conscious that the fact that they think everything is no problem, they could end up with a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. Do you want to sort of explain, if you get somebody who wishes to bring their partner in, and when I say partner, a common, what we would call a common law marriage, maybe between the same gender, that's another common question. Is it easier?
No problem.
No, is it easier to go the NLV route if they're not working, or is it easier to come in as family reunification? This is again a common question.
If you already have residence here, okay, here, if they are legally resident here, they could apply for family reunification as long as they've been here more than a year, right? So one of the requirements, you obviously know, is they need to have, let's put it this way, 2 British or 1 British, 1 Irish. The Irish got the green card, then is a European citizen, and the other one did not make it on time, okay? Well, you need to prove you're either a partner, otherwise you register partnership in Spain through the notary office. It's not a problem. Registering the partnership takes an average of 8-9 months here in this region. That's the only problem. And you need to prove that the holder of the residency has 12,000 euros in the bank minimum so he's able to maintain the other one, okay, who will be a partner, legal partner, or married, right? Obviously, you could do that with children as well, okay, family reunification. But now the answer is you could use the T.I.E process. Well, if you have the T.I.E, family reunification, whether you have it before Brexit or after Brexit, okay?
Yeah, okay, that's explained it. That's simple. Is there, when they apply for family reunification, is extrañeros reasonable about it, or do they tend to look at it difficult?
No, actually, to be honest, is one of the routes that I like most, because it is straightforward. Your partner is a European citizen. You've got the money in the bank minimum for, let's say, partners, right? 12,000 euros in the bank for 6 months. So I always recommend have the money in place, then do the partnership, because it's going to take 8 to 9 months. So you need the money in the bank, and provide the padron and photos and the application. And Richard, it goes well, it goes straightforward. So there is not much they would say if you comply with these requirements. And this is a simple road for those who are applying. So when clients come, Richard, they will ask us, and we do kind of a scan. They come with an idea of a non-lucrative visa or a golden visa, but sometimes you have several roads to go. You know, you even have that, and people forget about family reunification, which is simple. It could be done, is being done here in Spain, and is straightforward. The only problem, it takes time, and the problem is they sometimes stay here irregular because they are 3 months. The whole process takes so long. And one of the questions it reaches, could I leave the country? Could I stay? And all this. You see, this is what we are getting. But if the question was, is it going to happen if they comply? Yes. They're not being difficult, Richard, on that. Unfortunately, they were more difficult under the withdrawal agreement with things like padron and health insurance, which to me was ridiculous. But here you go. You know a lot of it back.
Last question, because there's a lot of questions already in, and some of them are the questions that I would ask anyway. If somebody wants to go for family reunification, they have a dependent relative, say an ascendant relative, a mother or father that needs care, and they are already here, i.e. they came in pre-Brexit, we'll say, and they are already here. They are illegal at the moment. If they wanted to apply for family reunification, albeit they are here, does it mean that they would have to go back to the UK, or can a stay of execution be obtained?
I mean, there are several roads here that we're facing, Richard, because we are already in 2022, and arraigo, as Pedro stated before, is another possibility. They could start, instead of family reunification, they could do arraigo social, which is social ties in Spain. Okay, but obviously you need to have a padron here for at least 3 years. That's another road you could do. You've been living irregular here with just a padron and nothing else for more than 3 years. That's an important one for them to try. But for family reunification, you will do it. I will recommend people to do it here, Richard.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. Loads of questions in, and I'll stand by.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Okay.
Pedro, will you start selecting?
Sorry, I apologize because I was not able to listen at all. Obviously, this latest question, I think I understood it, but I think it's been also answered. Let's go to, I mean, someone is asking about if it's effective, you are outside once you stay 5 years, I think it's one of the questions, I don't remember which is the name, but I'm sure that we can follow that. It really says, I mean, what the law actually says, if you have been living in Spain more or during the time of 5 years, and that living in Spain has not been affected by you being outside of Spain, in the territory of Spain, like let's say continuously more than 6 months, and the total amount of months is no more of 10 months into the 5 years, that will be able to show and get this larga duración, residencia larga duración is like a residency, long-term residency, let's say that. I think he's asking that at the beginning it was John Tryhold. I think it was at the beginning. Okay, well, let's go for more questions, Ignacio. That I cannot.
I think Pedro, I would insist now again. People, I'm finding out, Richard, I know you know better your association, obviously. I'm still surprised a lot of people did try to get T.I.Es and they're still getting a no. Do you have a lot of cases, Richard?
Yes.
Right. I mean, really, I highly recommend them to go for professional advice. You know, I really think, and I honestly, when we have these clients, we review all possible options. And as I said, as long as you have enough grounds to say that you were here, because Ryan, for example, here is saying that he's been rejected and denied the right to receive the T.I.E. I really insist, Richard and Pedro, for them to keep trying. Okay, yeah. Keep trying, because my personal view, if you could go for the T.I.E. under the withdrawal agreement for British, because you guys are the one who could get it from a non-European country. The Americans could not go under that, neither the Chinese, the Russians, you know, not a lot of people are allowed. Now, you should benefit from all of it. And as you could see from what I did mention here, you will end up getting a good result. So sometimes the problem when I budget everything on the board with clients, we always put over the table everything. And then it's a matter of time and a strategy. Because some people say, well, I'll go back to the UK and start non-lucrative visa. Well, if it fits, for me, I think it's best the T.I.E. under the withdrawal agreement. But some people cannot reach it to be put under stress with the courts and things. And to be honest, through this procedure, let me explain to you here as well. In this procedure, when you go, this is the application through the courts. So you appoint a barrister like ourselves and a court runner. Then the party gets the answer. The lawyer of the state replies, and there is a hearing. In the hearing, for those who really don't want to be in the hearing, they don't have to be in the hearing. We are all by ourselves, unless we really need the witnesses and things, but we normally get these statements on writing. And then you get the sentence. So don't be afraid, because it's a very familiar court. I know his court is always tough, but don't be afraid if you really think you have a case, okay? And this was really the point of the webinar, Richard, is to encourage people to enforce their rights, because before we couldn't even say, if you remember, there is not enough doctrine, but now there is, and they need to take advantage of that, okay? Richard, do you want to pick any other question that we have before we move on? Pedro, will you pick up one that you think is relevant for the group?
Okay. Let me get,
there's one here, if you would like me to.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
There's someone, and this is very relevant with the pandemic situation, someone who got stuck in Australia, this is from Jean, but lived in Spain before the 2020 exit, has a recent padron, has a knee, has medical insurance and Spanish bank account, can he or she get a TIE? I think the answer is yes, with your current criteria, but over to you.
So Richard, you're basically saying that they've got the padron, the financial means, they had a health insurance. Is that correct, what you're saying, Richard?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
And as long as they could prove, they've been resident here through a contract, through even go to your town hall and apply to the mayor for a letter to say you've been living here. They will send the police, the local police, to do an inspection as the neighbors and make a statement. Even with that evidence, Richard, the client's being rejected by his Heredia office, and we managed to get it. So the straight answer will be go for it. But before going for it, go to a professional who makes sure that you qualify with all the requirements to avoid wasting time and money. Okay, but the answer, my first answer without looking at the paperwork, is go ahead. Go ahead.
If they'd like to contact us, we'll recommend somebody in their area or pass them through to you. That's Brexpats in Spain.
Okay. Yeah, Richard, just put your email address and everything just in case.
I will
And
do.
Pedro as well. So just in case people might need to discuss it further with any of us. Okay. Then we have a question from Lynn. Can you do appeals in other provinces? Yes, we can. Can we represent clients in different provinces? Yes, we can. Okay, so that's not a problem. Everything is going to be put through the system. Then if they reject it, we will request back again through appeal. But yes, we are allowed to work all throughout Spain, but on the hearing, in case there is a hearing, because sometimes you could even apply for not having a hearing, is all paperwork. Yes, we'll have to go to a different province. This is for Lynn. Right. I think we've got Stuart. Hi, Stuart. It's nice seeing you here through this forum. He says he was rejected his health insurance because he was dated April 2021. Yes, this is typical. The expiry date was 31st of March. Yeah, Stuart, they try to be upward with the dates. Yeah, if the insurance was in 2021, they were difficult with that. And again, the court just ordered that there is not a date, compulsory date in the law that says you should have an insurance before the application. Okay. Pedro, Richard, which one? I think Pedro has something from John, some questions. If you could see Pedro.
The last one, Pedro saying about the minimum absence is 10 months in 5 years, which is correct. But John points out it is different under the withdrawal agreement, which of course it is. If Pedro would like to clarify that.
Pedro, can you listen? Pedro, you don't have the microphone on.
Now is on. So yes, obviously I said what the general law it says. It looks like that John is it because of the withdrawal agreement. That's right. Obviously, that it's another question in this chat I'm taking right now, that someone is being back and forwards into Spain and UK and it's not being stamped with the passport in order to prove which is going to be the time is going to be in Spain or not. Obviously, in that case, for John, the answer is yes. This it will be a different issue really for the British citizens in this case because of the withdrawal agreement. But obviously, there is also a lack of. I'm watching, and I would like to have a little more information about people when goes back and forwards from United Kingdom. I recently went into London. Obviously, I was not stamped, but it looks like that many people, probably Richard, you can clarify that it's not being stamped. So in some ways, sometimes it's difficult to prove which one has been more months or less months that it should be.
That is an issue that I was going to come on to at one stage. People are asking, when you travel inside the Schengen zone, by car, for instance, when you go to France, nobody stamps your passport. Nobody checks it in or out of Spain. So how do people prove that they've been in Spain for the requisite number of years?
Yeah, that's always a good one.
Yeah, it's a very grey area.
There is always grey and tricky situations, Richard. But basically, if you really need to prove it, you'll have to take your passport to the police control to stamp it. Some clients just come and say, I want to have a stamp, you know, to prove that I've been here to protect myself. But you could always go to the police station. But alternatively, you might not need or willing to have that. So I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, what we're saying to people is that they may not be border checks, i.e. stamping your passport, but all borders now have number plate recognition cameras. So it will be, if you're driving your car to Portugal, it will be up to you to prove that you weren't in it and you were
correct.
The onus of proof won't be on the state to prove it. The onus of proof is on you to prove you were here. Do you agree with that, Ignacio?
Say it again, Richard.
The onus of proof is not on the state to prove you weren't here. It is on you to prove you were here.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, the burden of proof is always in our side as citizens, and they need to be wise to be able to have all the evidence in place in case they want to use it in the future. Okay. It is important that, Richard, it is important to protect your rights, to defend your rights, exactly as I explained here before. A lot of rental contracts, a lot of evidence, and the judge even said, you don't need just the background. You could prove you've been living here as many evidence as you have. So that's why I encourage people, look after yourself. You know, it's always, but they always need to do planning. As we always say, do tax planning, which is a different thing, or do immigration planning before they relocate into Spain. They need to do all these bits and pieces to protect themselves. It's important, Richard.
Yeah, to protect yourself, forward planning.
Yeah.
To Stuart, I would say he was rejected because of his health insurance. Very simply, contact either myself, I put the email address and Brexpats in Spain up, or contact Pellicer and Heredia. And you should be okay from everything that's been said today.
Right. Let me just add one more thing, Richard. For those who, and this is important advice, by the way, if you've been living in Spain more than a year, you could change into convenio especial. Okay. If you're below 65 years, you'll pay 65 euros. If you don't want private health, let's say you have a lot of medical issues and you're not sure that the insurance will cover, etc., etc. My recommendation, after 1 year of padron, 1 year living in Spain, you apply for convenio especial, okay? Alternatively, if you're working, you don't need convenio especial because you are contributing into the system and that's health. So I'm dealing with some cases that they've been working and that proves that you've been having medical cover, okay? I thought it was a good idea, Richard, to mention here, convenio especial, below 65, you pay 65 euros per person. And over 65, you pay 165 euros per person, but it's got full coverage. And I know clients are quite happy with the health system in Spain in general. So it's a very individual decision, but they have the option after 1 year, Richard. So that's important.
I would add to that those that go for health insurance, particularly to get their NLV, etc., it is essential to ensure that it is full coverage and there is not a co-payment clause. Many of the cheaper health insurances include a co-payment clause. In other words, it's not full coverage, you have to top it up. And that's not acceptable.
Mhm. Right, Pedro, any other pending questions before we go? Anything else? I mean,
Well,
we're happy to do video conference, as Richard said, just either got contact Richard or contact ourselves. We're getting difficult cases, but we're happy. It's a challenge, and we're very, very happy to help people. You know, it's very rewarding helping you guys in this case, especially when there are difficult cases and we can fight on your behalf. But I recommend you to do planning. I recommend you to have a lot of evidence, as we discussed before. I recommend you to fight for your rights, especially if you're under the withdrawal agreement. And I didn't mention that even if you've got your non-lucrative and you were rejected, we can still appeal from the Spanish consulate. From here, we can still appeal that decision. A different matter is whether it's worth it or not over again, etc., etc. But the same that we're doing all these appeals from here, we could be doing appeals from abroad. So that could be UK, United States, any Spanish consulate in the world. But the only difference, it doesn't really affect you, is that it will be from Madrid court. But it's not an issue for you because you might be in abroad. Okay, so everything I stated about the court. Yeah, Richard?
There is a question which is relevant to that. Somebody is asking, Brexpats in Spain, of course, covers all of Spain. Can you deal with appeals in areas other than Alicante?
Do you mean if we could represent clients throughout Spain, correct?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got the license to represent clients all throughout Spain, Richard. So that's why I said basically we could appeal any decision on a strong area in Spain, even though our offices are in Costa Blanca, but it doesn't really matter because we've been dealing with a lot of cases in Madrid. Because if you have issues, Pedro actually dealt with a lot of issues with Chinese clients in the past.
At the end, we have to make an appeal in Madrid. All of them are in Madrid. All the sometimes rejections that have in non-lucrative visa, for example. And we have a license in order to represent and make appeals and represent in courts in all around Spain. I mean, from the territory of Canary Island, Balearic Island, and all the territory. Basically.
I think that's very important for people to know.
All right. Okay, I'm going to close this webinar. Thanking you for your support, for being with us. Thank you, Richard, for being with us so many years, helping the expat community. Pedro, thank you for taking your time in Javier today. You're a very busy man over there as well. And thank you, Pedro, Paco, who are always supporting us with the cameras, with the streaming, and you're able to listen. We hopefully are going to have another webinar in 2 weeks' time, and then probably in August, we'll have a break. Okay, try yourself to use Alexa. Send us some feedback so we can improve it. We'll get there. I'm going to pass over to Juanfran to show a video about going a little bit in Spain, flying through Spain for you if you're listening from abroad. Thank you once again, Richard, Pedro. See you very soon.
You can't stop thinking about it. That hidden cove, just for you. That little hideaway in the mountains. Or that beautiful postcard town. Dreaming about enjoying the fresh air again. Feeling the sun on your skin. Exploring. Walking. Traveler, there is no path. Paths are made by walking. Never stop dreaming. Spain will wait.